Ethan gently pulled the blanket up to Lily's chin and pressed a kiss to her forehead. It had been a long day, exhaustion tugged at his body, but her little hand wrapped around his wrist, holding him in place. "Daddy," she whispered, eyes wide and filled with something too heavy for her age. "Yes, sweetheart." Her voice was quiet, but the words were sharp enough to cut through the fatigue. "Why does Mommy always go out at night when you're sleeping?" Ethan froze. The question echoed in the space between them. He blinked, trying to process it, unsure if he'd heard her right. "What do you mean, baby?" he asked gently, forcing his voice to stay steady, calm, though his heart had already begun to race. Lily shrugged, clutching her stuffed rabbit. "Sometimes I wake up and Mommy's not home. She goes out when you're asleep. She told me not to wake you." For a moment, Ethan couldn't speak. His throat felt tight. He forced a smile and brushed her hair back. "Maybe Mommy just had to run some errands," he said, pretending it was nothing. "Don't worry about it, okay? Go to sleep now." "Okay, Daddy," Lily said, trusting his words as children do. She turned on her side and hugged her rabbit, quickly drifting into sleep. Ethan sat there a moment longer, staring at her little face, peaceful and innocent. The question repeated in his mind like an echo. "Why does Mommy always go out at night?" He slowly stood and walked out of her room, closing the door softly behind him. The house was quiet, too quiet. He glanced at the empty kitchen counter where Mia's phone usually sat, the one she often carried everywhere lately. He told himself Lily was just imagining things. Kids say odd things sometimes, don't they? Maybe she had a dream, or maybe Mia really did go out for late groceries once or twice. It didn't mean anything, but the unease in his chest didn't go away. He poured himself a glass of water and stood by the window, staring out at the quiet street, the soft glow of streetlights on the pavement. Their neighborhood always felt safe, peaceful, like nothing bad could ever happen here. Still, as he climbed into bed that night, Ethan couldn't shake the look on Lily's face. She had been so sure, so honest. Lying on his back, he stared at the ceiling in the darkness. Maya was already asleep beside him, her breathing slow and steady, but all Ethan could hear were his daughter's words. "Why does Mommy always go out at night when you're sleeping?" He closed his eyes, but sleep never came. Ethan worked long hours at a logistics company, managing deliveries, schedules, and endless meetings. The job paid well and gave them a comfortable life, but it took most of his energy. By the time he came home, Lily was often already in her pajamas, and Maya had dinner plated on the table like clockwork. He loved Lily deeply and always tried to make time for her, but most days, that meant a quick bedtime story or a kiss on her forehead before she fell asleep. Home life had become a routine, almost mechanical. Ethan told himself it was normal. Many families lived like this. Busy schedules, tired evenings, a quiet marriage that worked because no one complained too loudly. Maya seemed like the perfect wife to everyone who knew them. She was charming, friendly, and always beautifully put together. On social media, she posted pictures of their weekend barbecues, Lily's school events, and smiling family selfies. Friends would comment, "You two are perfect together," and Ethan would nod and agree, even if it didn't feel that way anymore. They didn't fight often, but they didn't really talk either. Conversations were about bills, Lily's school, or grocery lists. Sometimes Ethan would come home to find Maya laughing on the phone in another room, her voice low and secretive. When he asked, she would smile and say, "Just catching up with a friend." At first, he believed her. Why wouldn't he? Maya had always been social, the kind of person who had a wide circle of friends. She loved dinners out, coffee dates, and charity events. Ethan, on the other hand, preferred quiet evenings at home. But over time, small things started to feel off. Maya would go out late in the evening, saying she had to pick up groceries or help a friend in need. She would leave after Lily went to bed and come back smelling faintly of perfume that wasn't hers. When Ethan asked why she couldn't just go in the day, she would say, "You work so hard. I don't want to bother you. This is just easier." He didn't push. Maybe he didn't want to. Work gave him an excuse not to think too much about the distance growing between them. As long as Lily was happy and the house looked like a picture-perfect home, he thought things were fine. Okay, enough, he told himself. But deep down, Ethan felt the difference. Maya didn't sit next to him on the couch anymore when they watched TV. She sat across the room, scrolling on her phone. She didn't reach for his hand in public the way she used to. On social media, though, their life looked perfect. Pictures of them at Lily's birthday party. Maya, leaning into Ethan's shoulder, with a bright smile. People liked and shared those photos, leaving comments like, "Couple goal." It was easier to smile for a picture than to fix what was broken. The only thing that felt completely real to Ethan was Lily. When she hugged him after work, when she showed him her drawings, or when she laughed at his silly voices during story time, those moments kept him grounded. He loved her more than anything. And even on the most exhausting days, he tried to be present for her. Still, the late-night phone calls and vague excuses stayed in his mind. He noticed she always took her phone with her everywhere, even to the bathroom, something she never used to do. If he walked into a room while she was texting, she would quickly lock her phone and smile at him, as if nothing had happened. It was easier to ignore these things than to face what they might mean. Ethan told himself that all marriages went through quiet phases, that this was normal, that Maya just had her own life, and he shouldn't be controlling. But after Lily's question that night, "Why does Mummy always go out at night when you're sleeping?" Ethan couldn't pretend anymore. Something was wrong, and he could feel it pressing on him like a weight he couldn't shake. Their life looked perfect to the outside world, but inside the walls of their home, there was a growing silence Ethan didn't know how to break. Ethan came home early one evening, something he almost never did. A meeting had been cancelled, and he thought it would be nice to surprise Maya and Lily, maybe even have dinner together as a family for once. But when he walked through the door, the house was quiet, too quiet. "Lily," he called. "In here, Daddy." Lily's voice came from the living room. She was sitting on the floor with her crayons and a coloring book. "Where's Mummy?" Ethan asked, putting his bag down. Lily looked up with innocent eyes and said, "She went out." Ethan frowned. "Out? Where did she go?" Lily shrugged. She said, "Don't tell you." The words hit him like a slap. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" he asked gently, trying not to show how shocked he was. She said, "Don't tell Daddy," Lily repeated, focused on her coloring again, like it was nothing. Ethan stood there frozen, his chest tight. Maya had told their daughter not to tell him something. Why? What was she hiding? He tried to shake it off. Maybe it was something harmless, like a surprise gift. Maybe Mia just wanted privacy about something personal. But the uneasy feeling in his stomach wouldn't go away. When Maya returned an hour later, she smiled like everything was normal. "Oh, you're home early," she said, walking into the kitchen and setting down a shopping bag. "I just went out for a bit. Did Lily eat yet?" Ethan stared at her. "Yeah, she's fine," he said, his voice even, but inside his mind was racing. He wanted to ask her where she had been, but something in her calm, easy smile made him hold back. That night, while Mia was taking a shower, Ethan noticed her phone lying on the nightstand. Normally, he wouldn't even think about touching it, but Lily's words wouldn't leave his mind. His hands trembled as he picked it up and opened it. The phone wasn't locked. He hesitated, then opened her messages. There it was, a conversation with someone named Ryan. His heart started pounding as he scrolled. "Ryan, can't wait to see you tonight," Maya had written. "Me too. Missed you all day," Ryan replied. Ethan felt like the floor had been pulled from under him. His mouth went dry, and his hands shook as he read more messages. Sweet words, plans to meet, inside jokes he didn't understand. For a moment, he couldn't breathe. His first thought was denial. This can't be what it looks like. Maybe he's just a friend. Maybe it's work-related. But the tone of those messages left little room for misunderstanding. He put the phone back exactly where it was, his chest pounding as he sat on the edge of the bed. When Mia stepped out of the bathroom, humming softly and wrapped in a towel, he forced a smile. "Everything okay?" she asked, looking at him. "Yeah," he said quietly, standing up. "Just tired." But inside, Ethan was anything but okay. That night, he lay awake in the dark, the words on that screen replaying in his mind. "Can't wait to see you tonight." Who was Ryan? How long had this been going on? And how could Mia tell their daughter to keep secrets from him? Humiliation and betrayal turned inside him. The woman he trusted, the one he built a life with, was meeting another man behind his back. And worse, she had made Lily part of the secret. By morning, something inside Ethan had changed. The quiet man who avoided conflict was gone. Now there was only one thought in his head. "I need to know the truth." Ethan started telling Mia he had to work late, but he wasn't at the office. Instead, he sat in his car a few streets away from their house, waiting. When Mia left, he quietly followed. The first night, she drove to a hotel on the edge of town. Ethan parked at a distance, heart pounding, hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly, his knuckles turned white. He watched her get out of the car, wearing a dress he hadn't seen before, her hair and makeup done, like she was going on a date. A man was waiting near the entrance. Ethan recognized him from a photo he'd seen once on Maya's phone. A man named Ryan. He watched them smile at each other, then hug, then walk inside the hotel bar together. Ethan sat there for almost an hour, staring at the glowing hotel sign, his stomach twisting. He wanted to rush inside, drag her home, scream at her for lying, for making Lily lie too. But another part of him said, "Get proof first. Don't be the fool who accuses without evidence." The next few nights were the same. Maya would leave thinking Ethan was working late, and he would follow from a distance, always the same hotel, always Ryan. Sometimes they came out laughing, sometimes holding hands. At home, Ethan changed. He stopped sleeping well, lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling, while Maya slept peacefully beside him. He stopped talking to her about his day, stopped asking about hers. He was careful with Lily, but even she noticed something was wrong. "Daddy, are you mad at Mommy?" she asked one evening, while drawing at the kitchen table. "No, sweetheart," Ethan said, forcing a smile. "Daddy's just tired." But inside, guilt burned. Lily deserved a happy home, not a father who was distracted and cold. Still, every time Ethan looked at Maya, he saw her smiling at Ryan, hugging him like she used to hug Ethan years ago. Finally, one night, Ethan decided to say something, just to see how she'd react. When Maya came home late, he sat on the couch waiting. "Where were you?" he asked calmly. She blinked, surprised. "I told you I went out to see a friend." "At a hotel?" he asked, watching her closely. Mia froze for a second, then laughed lightly. "What? Ethan, are you serious? A hotel? You're imagining things. You've been stressed from work, and now you're paranoid." Her voice was smooth, calm, almost pitying. "You really think I'd do something like that? You need to relax." For a moment, Ethan doubted himself. Maybe she was right. Maybe stress was twisting everything in his mind. But then he remembered the texts, the hugs, the hotel bar. That night, he felt more alone than ever. He couldn't talk to Maya. She'd just dismiss it again, and he didn't want to burden Lily with his pain. The next day, he called his older brother, Mark, someone he rarely opened up to. They met at a small cafe, and Ethan finally let the words spill out about the text, the hotel, Lily's comment, and Mia's response. Mark sat quietly, listening. Finally, he said, "You already know the truth, Ethan, you just don't want to face it." Ethan shook his head. "I don't want to break our family, Mark. I don't want Lily to grow up in a broken home." Mark leaned forward. "And you think pretending everything's fine is better? She already knows something's wrong, Ethan. Kids feel it. You can't hide this forever." Ethan sat back silent. He hated hearing it, but Mark was right. Pretending wasn't fixing anything. It was just eating him alive. That night, Ethan looked at Maya, across the dinner table, her face glowing from the warm kitchen lights, her laugh easy and familiar. She still looked like the woman he married, but to him, she felt like a stranger now. And deep inside, a quiet decision began to form. He couldn't keep living like this. He needed to know everything, no matter how much it hurt. Ethan waited until he had everything. He printed the photos from his phone, the ones of Maya and Ryan at the hotel bar, their hands touching, their smiles too close to be friendly. He saved the text from her phone. That night she had been in the shower. When Maya came home one evening, Ethan was already sitting at the dining table. The photos and printed texts were spread out in front of him. "We need to talk," Ethan said, his voice steady but cold. Maya stopped in her tracks when she saw the papers. "What is this?" she asked, her voice tight. "You tell me," Ethan said. "You and Ryan at a hotel, these texts. Can't wait to see you tonight. Missed you all day. How long has this been going on, Maya?" For a moment she said nothing. She just stared at the evidence, her mouth slightly open. Then she sat down slowly and whispered, "I didn't want you to find out like this." "So it's true," his voice cracked, despite his effort to stay calm. "You're having an affair." Maya's eyes welled up, but she didn't deny it. "Yes, I'm sorry, Ethan." Ethan laughed bitterly. "You told our daughter to lie to me. You made her part of this." Tears rolled down Maya's cheek. "I never meant to hurt Lily. I felt alone, Ethan. You were never here." The room went silent. Ethan's heart broke at the sight of her small face, full of fear. Maya tried to move toward her, but Lily stepped back. At that moment, the doorbell rang. Ethan opened it, and there stood Ryan. "I came to check on Maya," Ryan said softly, glancing at the tense atmosphere. Ethan's face hardened. "Get out." Ryan raised his hands. "Ethan, let's talk about this calmly." "Get out now," Ethan shouted, stepping forward. Ryan hesitated, then backed away and left without another word. Ethan turned back to Maya. "You need to choose right now. Family or freedom. You don't get both." Maya wiped her face, shaking. "Ethan, She looked at Lily, then at Ethan. "I need time to think." Ethan's voice was firm. "Fine. Then go. Think, but not here." Maya nodded slowly, grabbed her bag, and walked out the door, leaving Ethan standing there with Lily in his arms, holding her as she cried softly into his shoulder. For Ethan, everything had changed in a single night. But one thing was clear: he would fight to keep his daughter safe and loved, no matter what happened next. Maya left that night, saying she needed time to think. She packed a small bag and walked out without looking back. The house felt painfully quiet after she left. But Ethan didn't have time to fall apart. Lily clung to him, scared and confused, and he knew he had to be strong for her. The next few days were hard. Ethan still had work, but he came home early, determined to be present. He cooked simple meals, sometimes burning them, and Lily giggled as they tried to fix the food together. At bedtime, he read her extra stories, holding her hand until she fell asleep. One night after tucking Lily in, Ethan sat alone on the couch and thought about everything. He realized he had been distant for years, always tired, always distracted by work. Maya had been wrong to cheat, but he could see now how empty she must have felt. He hadn't been there for her. Not really. That thought hurt, but it also gave him clarity. If he wanted a family, he had to show up, not just physically, but emotionally. A week later, Maya returned. She stood at the doorway, looking uncertain, her eyes red from crying. "Ethan," she said quietly, "I want to come home. I want to try again, if you'll let me." Ethan took a deep breath. "If we do this, Maya, there are rules. No more secrets. No more lies. We go to counseling, and we work on this, both of us." Maya nodded quickly, tears falling. "Yes, I'll do whatever it takes." They hugged, but it wasn't the same as before. It was cautious, fragile. Still, it was a start. In the weeks that followed, Ethan made big changes. He cut back his work hours and spent more time at home. He and Maya attended counseling, facing the painful truths between them. It wasn't easy, but slowly, little by little, they started rebuilding trust. Through it all, Ethan focused on Lily. He helped with homework, took her to the park, and listened to her stories without rushing. One evening while drawing together, Lily looked up and said, "Daddy, you're home more now." Ethan smiled softly. "I'm not going anywhere, babe." He knew things would never be exactly as they once were, but that was okay. This time they were building something stronger, something honest. For the first time in years, Ethan felt present in his own life. He had set boundaries, learned to prioritize his family, and promised himself he would never let work or silence steal these moments again. Ethan tucked Lily into bed, pulling the blanket up to her chin, just like he always did. She held her stuffed rabbit close and looked at him with sleepy eyes. "Daddy," she whispered softly. "Yes, sweetheart," he said, brushing her hair from her face. "Are you and Mommy happy now?" she asked, her little voice full of hope and worry all at once. Ethan smiled gently, his heart aching at how much she had seen and felt through everything. He kissed her forehead and said, "We're trying, baby, and we're never giving up on you. Not ever." Lily smiled a small, tired smile and hugged her rabbit tighter. "Okay, Daddy," she whispered before closing her eyes. Ethan sat on the edge of her bed for a moment longer, watching her breathe softly as she drifted into sleep. The house was quiet, peaceful, different from the loud arguments and tears from weeks ago. He stood up and walked to the doorway. Maya was standing in the hallway, leaning quietly against the wall, watching. Their eyes met. She gave a small, uncertain smile, and Ethan nodded back. Things weren't perfect, far from it, but they were trying. For Lily, for themselves, for the family they had almost lost. Downstairs, Ethan turned off the lights and sat for a moment on the couch, thinking about how far they had come. Pain, anger, and betrayal had almost torn them apart, but now there was honesty, and there was effort. For the first time in a long while, Ethan felt something he thought was gone. Hope. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. But tonight, as his daughter slept soundly upstairs and Maya moved gently through the kitchen, cleaning in quiet rhythm, Ethan allowed himself to believe, for the first time in a long while, that maybe they had a real He whispered to himself, soft but certain, like a vow, "We're going to be okay." Hi friends.